I was alone that night. 22 years old, just moved into my first apartment after graduating. My parents had gone abroad for a few weeks, and I was determined to prove I could handle life on my own. It had been raining all evening. The thunder cracked loudly every few minutes, making the windows tremble. I curled up on the couch with a blanket, a cup of tea in my hands, and my favorite crime thriller on TV. Ironically, I had no idea I was about to live through one. At around 12:30 a.m., the power went out. Darkness swallowed the apartment. I wasn't too scared at first. I lit a candle and sat back down. But then, I heard it, a faint sound, like a creak, from the kitchen. I froze. At first, I thought it was the wind, but the window in the kitchen was locked. Or at least I thought it was. I crept to the kitchen door, heart pounding in my chest like a drum. Another sound. Breathing. Someone was in my house. My mind screamed. My legs trembled. But I didn't move. Through the shadows, I could see a tall figure, cloaked in black, standing near the fridge. I backed away slowly, trying not to make a sound, but I accidentally knocked over a glass from the table behind me. It shattered. The man turned, and our eyes met. I bolted to my bedroom and locked the door behind me, barely in time. I grabbed my phone. No signal. The power outage must have messed up the tower nearby. I had one chance. I pushed my dresser against the door and searched the room for anything I could use. My old hockey stick, a whistle from college, pepper spray I'd left in a drawer. I grabbed all three. Then I remembered the emergency dial number I saved in an old feature phone my dad had left me. I found it in a box under the bed, turned it on, and it worked. Just barely. I dialed the local emergency line. My voice was shaking, but I gave them my name, my address, and whispered, "He's inside. I'm locked in the room." The dispatcher stayed on the line, asking me to stay calm. She said officers were on the way. 15 minutes. 15 minutes felt like a lifetime. Then boom. He was trying to break the door. I screamed. He hit it again. But then he shouted something. Not angry. Desperate. "I'm not here to hurt you. Please. I just needed food. Please." That stopped me cold. "What?" Through the door, he began to cry. He said his name was Caleb. That he had been homeless for months. That the rain and cold had pushed him to break in not to hurt me, but to survive. I didn't know what to believe. But then the sirens came. Flashing lights burst through the curtains. He didn't run. He stayed on his knees, hands in the air. The police arrested him, but I told them everything. How he didn't try to hurt me. How he begged for help. They confirmed he had no weapon. Just desperation. That night changed me. It made me realize how fragile safety can feel, and how sometimes even fear hides a broken soul. I later found out Caleb had a family once. A daughter my age. He lost them. Lost everything. And that night, he saw in me not just a target but someone who reminded him of who he used to be. I never forgot that. And I never again slept with the windows unlocked. 2 weeks had passed since the night Caleb broke into my home. The police had taken him away, and for a while, I couldn't sleep without double-checking every lock, every curtain, every creak of the house. But I couldn't forget his face, the way he knelt down, hands raised, not in anger, but in pain. The kind of pain people carry when they've lost everything. I kept thinking, what if I hadn't locked the door? What if he had wanted more than food? What if he was telling the truth? One cold evening, as I returned from the grocery store, I noticed a folded piece of paper stuck in my doorframe. It wasn't a threat. It was a letter. "I'm sorry for what I did that night. You didn't deserve to be scared like that. I was just cold. Hungry. Lost. I've turned myself in and started a rehab program. Thank you for not screaming. Thank you for seeing me. I hope you'll be okay. Caleb." My hands trembled as I read it again and again. Was this closure? Or a warning? I showed the letter to the police. They confirmed it had been written from a halfway house. Caleb was being supervised, monitored, and was following a recovery program. Still, they advised me to stay cautious. But I couldn't shake the feeling that our paths weren't done crossing. And I was right. Because one rainy night, weeks later, I heard a knock at my door. I looked through the peephole. It was a woman, wearing a dark raincoat, soaked to the bone, holding something wrapped in cloth. When I opened the door, her eyes met mine. "I'm his sister," she said. "Caleb, he passed away last week." My breath caught. She handed me the cloth. Inside was a small notebook. Torn pages. Scribbled thoughts. "He wrote about that night. About you. Said you were the first person who saw him as human in years." I didn't know what to say. She left, and I sat on the floor, reading page after page of his thoughts. Some dark. Some filled with regret. But one sentence stood out, circled 3 times. If I had met her sooner, maybe my life would have been different. That night, I cried for a man I never really knew, but whose presence had changed my entire life. Days had passed, but that night, his face, and especially his final words, still echoed in my mind. If I had met her sooner, maybe my life would have been different. The notebook Caleb's sister had given me sat beside my bed like a ghost. Something about it felt unfinished, like it held a secret I hadn't uncovered yet. One quiet evening, I flipped through the pages again. And that's when I noticed something I hadn't seen before, scrawled faintly on the last page. She reminded me of her. The same eyes. The same scar on her wrist. My heart stopped. Scar on her wrist? I had a small scar on my right wrist, a mark from a childhood accident. Hardly anyone knew about it. How did Caleb? Suddenly shaken, I reread the next line. Her mother was named Rachel, just like mine. She was taken from me when I was sent away. My breath caught in my throat. My mother's name is Rachel. The world around me began to blur. I FaceTimed my mother immediately. She was still abroad. When I told her everything, including his name and the notebook, her expression froze. Silent. Pale. "Mom?" I asked. "Who was he?" She took a long breath, then finally whispered. "Caleb was my first child. I had him when I was just a teenager. My parents made me give him up. I never told anyone, not even your father. He would have been your half-brother." The ground beneath me seemed to disappear. The man who broke into my home, the man I feared, the man I later cried for. He was my blood, my half-brother. And he had no idea until he saw me that night. That's why he didn't hurt me. That's why he froze. That's why he left me a letter, because he knew. He recognized me. And he died with that truth in his heart, never telling me. But somehow he wanted me to find out. The scar. The notebook. The words. That night had terrified me. But now, it defined me.